So I've been playing with my Ranger, putting a lot of work into him, getting a lot of cool toys, and trying to understand the class and come up with a system to play a Ranger that's fun for me, because that's what I like to have. I like to have fun, and I always do a slightly different system for different classes. Now, if I'm doing this video right, you guys are looking at a chart called EverQuest Ranger Damage Amplifiers. There's nothing new on this chart that I've come up with. I think it's FinTank. Go to eqfreelance.com, their forums, and they're going to have a section for Rangers on raid performance. And it will tell you how to raid as a Ranger. It's kind of the Bible on playing as a Ranger, certainly in the raid context. So I'm not going to be raiding on this Ranger. To the extent I do anything involving raiding with this Ranger, it would be as an alt that loots. So I'm looking not so much in how to maximize my performance in a highly controlled environment for a specific mob, but rather how to get the most damage over time, the most sustained damage I can, because it's a group setting. And of course, it's always nice on the boss mob if you can really excel. So if you look at these damage modifiers, the top is going to be these colored bars, and that's just if I have over a 20-minute time, how often will I have the hit damage amplifiers. Those are your base damage modifiers. It doesn't modify the chance to crit. It doesn't modify the amount of damage a critical hit does, but it does, except indirectly, it does amplify your base damage. And that's one of the core functions of Rangers. And you have a number of abilities that you can do to give you and to amplify your base damage. And you want to keep them up as much as possible. And so here is a visual representation. You know, for the first minute and 36 seconds, you might have Outrider's Accuracy on, then you switch to Guarding the Forest. Group Guarding the Forest, Outrider's Accuracy. At that point, your triggerable damage amplifiers will be down, and so you have some downtime. You can hit Intensity the Resolute if you want to fill that gap. This is just a 20-second gap, though, so you probably save it for later. Or if you get lucky, you've got Hunter's Fury triggered, and Hunter's Fury and Engulfed by the Hunt, which is a spell you cast. You get it from your Ranger Unity AA, among other things. Those kill shots, you really want to get the kill shots whenever possible. Or if you're doing group mobs and there's a lesser mob, maybe you take that out so you can get the kill shot, because that gives you huge benefits, and those will fill those gaps. But then in Guarding the Forest, then you have a minute downtime, which is perfect to fill with Intensity of the Resolute, which only comes up every 4 hours. But like I was grouping for hours last night, and there was only one real time where I needed to use Intensity to fill a gap. Usually I had a kill shot proc up or something else going on. Outrider's Accuracy, then you have another downtime. Group Guardian, Outrider's Accuracy, Guarding the Forest. So you look at your damage amplifiers, and if you look at that, for instance, the blue, Intensity of the Resolute, matches the blue of Glyph of Destruction. Those two don't stack. Anything that's in italics, such as Group Bestial Alignment, is something you have no particular control over. You do have some control over Hunter's Fury and whether you get a kill shot, but it's still a somewhat random ability. And so it's nice to know when someone, like if you're with a Beast Lord and they've done Bestial Alignment, or you've got the kill shot up, it's nice to know when those are up, so you can save your triggerable abilities for later. The second category of damage amplifiers is the critical melee chance amplifier. The chance to get a melee goes up. Engulfed by the Hunt is the biggest one. That's obviously procced off a kill shot. And so you want to get those kill shots on non-trivial foes whenever possible. It really helps. And It's not super difficult in a group setting. Auspice of the Hunter, everybody knows that one. That's your big one. Falcon Strike, Circle of Power. Then Cry Carnage is another one. The Berserker one, you don't have control of that. The Shaman Epic, you don't have control over that. But when those are up, you might save, like you could save Auspice a little bit later and then trigger it. Or, if there's a gap, you might want to hit Circle of Power. If Auspice is down, you do Falcon Strike. That comes back every 3 minutes, so you can always have that up. And then critical hit damage amplifiers. Those, you've done your base damage, you've crit it, and now these final set is going to amplify the crit even more. Obviously, Shaman does double duty because it amplifies your chance to get a crit and it amplifies the damage. Glyph of Destruction, you can use that if you have more AAs and you know what to do with. I'm not there yet. Spire of the Pathfinders. A lot of these abilities do multiple things, but I'm focused on amplifying damage. Inspire the Pathfinders, among other things, gives you a 25% critical hit damage amplifier. Now, if I made a mistake on some of these, I apologize. Again, I don't main a ranger, and this is very much the group setting. Then I look over here, you've got Pure Shot Discipline. That's obviously a big one every 20 minutes. Scarlet Cheetah Fang, that's every 20 minutes, another big one. And Imbued Ferocity. So those are not, they don't fall in those three categories. So that's the chart. Now let's turn over and to the guild hall where I'm hitting a dummy, and let's start looking at the chart in action and how I use this. So, okay, let's get here. Okay, so this is back up, too far. Let's see. If I want to do my jolting kicks, I'm not quite in that sweet spot. This puts me in the sweet spot. A lot of rangers, you don't need that. Again, I'm making a fun tune, something that's fun to play. And so I wanted to have these little, benefits. And I will tell you, when you're in, Charball Divided in the pit, and you kind of work in the hills, and there's a little valley, and there's mobs, it can be helpful. But that's you've got this so you can do your jolting hits. But let's talk about these hit modifiers. Okay, so I do Pathfinder, and so now I know I've got the pink. I could do Auspice. That tells me I've got this, and so I obviously want to have. Now I've got all three categories of damage modifiers going up, and I know when they're up. And so if one goes down, I can use, for instance, the blue. These four here all affect increased base melee damage. This series of three, Auspice, my Epic, and my Circle of Power 4 clicky, all affect the green, increased chance to critical hit. Now, I don't have a lot of things to increase critical hit damage. If there's a Shaman buff, that would do it, Glyph of Destruction, but Pathfinders is my main one. So a lot of times, this one won't be up pink. It's really the green and the blue. You want to keep the green and the blue up as much as possible. Now, let's see. So we're going to trigger the Shaman Epic in a second. So pink goes, the blue went down, so I should do something for that. But here, let's trigger the Shaman Epic as soon as this fades. So when you did the Shaman Epic, suddenly you've got pink and green, and that tells you let's add some base melee damage into the picture. And maybe I want to throw on a dot, and I'd like to know when that dot goes away. And so that's what I'm working with here, is to create this character who is fun to play. And I've organized my burns not strictly in the way you might do with the raid, but in a sense of sustained, continuous extra damage. So Auspice, this is the Shaman Epic that's up there. When the Shaman Epic fades, I don't have anything to put on the paint because I'm not going to burn a glyph. The Shaman just did his Epic, and my Spire is down. But I do my my Epic, my 2.0, and suddenly we've got this going. This comes back every 3 minutes, so at least a third of the time, that's the green. If the Auspice is down, Auspice is preferred. If they're both down, I would go with Rage of Power, and that gives me approximately 2 minutes of enhanced damage. I say approximately 2 minutes. It fades when it fades, and I've set my trigger up so when it does fade, it will cancel the timer, or if these were refreshed for some reason. So your green goes, and in this case, I hit Circle of Power, and I bring back with Group. Now, my group trigger only works, it's a group Guardian of the Forest. It only works if I'm in a group, because for Guardian of the Forest and Group Guardian of the Forest use the same text. But if you're in a group, the Group Guardian, there will be text basically saying that channels the power of the forest. And that's the way that does. If I don't have at least a mercenary out, that trigger won't work. But if you're just soloing, do you really need all those triggers? So that's kind of my basic approach of what I'm working with now to enhance the damage of the Ranger. I will give you a little highlights of play last night, and I will show you the triggers I have right now. Headshot, that's a vanity. There's no reason to have a trigger for headshot, except it's fun, and that's what we're going for. So this is before I've kind of finalized my triggers. I'm working on them, and we're just doing mercenary and partisan quests in Charval to divide it. And even as I showed you earlier, I've already fixed Group Guarding the Forest. I forgot to change the timer on that, so it came out in the wrong color, in the wrong area. But this is the process of slowly fine-tuning my Ranger setup to make it fun to play, practical, to give me the flexibility in a group setting when different people will be using different epics and different abilities, and I want to know when they're going up and be able to take advantage of it. And so as I was playing yesterday, I was also thinking about how I can improve upon my setup to get it to work. And as I said, the geometry here is where it is kind of helpful to know when you're not quite within range to get your jolts off, or you want to back up a little bit so you can get your archery going. And but that's it. That's the video. I hope it's a little bit helpful. It's really intended for a group player. I will talk to you guys later.